John Gloucester, Pussycat.
Where can you even begin with Pussycat? If ever there was a machine that succeeded on every single front of Robot Wars, it was Pussycat. Consistently dominant in combat, it won an eye-watering 34 battles and took out no less than 5 competition titles. Pussycat was capable of crippling giants, hamstringing an otherwise unstoppable Hypno Disc, and carving up Razor not once but twice, becoming the only robot to ever defeat Razor by pure knockout.
And it's ended just like it ended before, with Pussycat the winners, and Razor grumbling and stumbling, and out! They won't like it. They're going to have to accept it. Pussycat is the better robot of the two when they come head to head.
Aside from combat, Pussycat boasted a truly genius design, a pyramid with 4 wheels that meant the cat could always land on its feet and made Pussycat almost impossible to immobilize. No discussion about Pussycat would be complete without praising David Gribble, the driver of Pussycat, who is almost universally considered one of the best the show ever saw. Alan and David, both dear departed friends of Robot Wars, made the show a better place and earned a Sportsmanship Award in Series 5. Following the tragic loss of David, the machine moved into the new hands of Stuart Barnwell. Though it made an early exit in Series 7, Barnwell was able to carve out his own little niche on Pussycat's glowing resume by taking on the Series 7 All-Stars tournament for veterans, a fitting end for a robot on a team who had been on the show longer than any other in existence.
From Hemel Hempstead, Behemoth.
By the time Series 10 came to a close, it was almost impossible to deny that Behemoth was one of the mascots of the entire show. How can it not be when it's the single longest running machines in the show's history? Appearing in 6 out of 7 classic series, both series of Robot Wars Extreme, and all 3 series of the reboots, no robot came even close to the exposure of the Hemel Hempstead boys. By Series 10, Ant Pritchard, Michael Pritchard, and Kane Aston barely resembled the boys who first appeared in Series 2 and 3, so long had their Robot Wars careers been. To talk about Behemoth is a story that puts classic literature to shame, and we could spend all day on it, so here's the Cliff Notes version. Despite a strong start, claiming a top 8 finish in its debut series, and placing second in the First World Championship, Behemoth managed to be the eternal underachiever for the entire show. 7 campaigns followed Behemoth's debut, and in every single one, something went wrong. From arena spikes to tough draws to controversial judges' decisions to freak accidents, and well, most of the time it was just plain bad luck. Despite the constant defeats though, Ant, Mike, Kane, and later Kevin kept on honing their design, perfecting the design that they maintained were best. And that is not to say that Behemoth didn't put off some great moments. A famous victory over Hypno Disc in Extreme 1, a House Robot Rebellion victory in Series 7, and 2 out of the arena flips, the only ones done by lifting scoops. But it was Series 9 where Behemoth hit rock bottom, controversially eliminated in the second round at the House of Cherub, and in one moment, when the losses piling up finally got to Ant Pritchard on camera, Behemoth suddenly became famous and talked about for all the wrong reasons. But then in Series 10, the last series we would ever get, Behemoth's long journey to glory finally came to fruition. Behemoth's Heat's victory against Apollo is without a doubt one of the single most satisfying in the history of the show, and was a truly marvellous payoff for many fans that have been enduring Behemoth's many losses over the years. A subsequent top 4 finish finally meant that Behemoth had something to show for its years of refinement, because no longer was the Series 2 version the best performing version. Series 10 might have closed the book on Robot Wars for now, but perhaps the most satisfying thing was a happy ending for one of the best characters in its story.
It's nip and tuck so far. Again, the attack of Apollo. Trying to get in underneath Behemoth. They need to doorstep it. Apollo are down! Apollo are down! Smash down Apollo! Behemoth, the greatest moment in 20 years! 20 years of hurt and grief! End with new celebrations and frustration for Apollo. You're in there. You're not going to get out now, Apollo.
From Era, Deitor.
At the top end of this list, most robots help build their reputation off of their battle results, but the next machine on our list is Deitor, son of Nemesis, a machine that was all about the visual side of robot combat. Just like its predecessor, Deitor's design screamed comedy bot, striking and noticeable with the bulging boggle eyes and the red and black polka dot fur. But it was in the arena itself where Deitor showed that Robot Wars was as much about sportsmanship and being a game show as it was a competition. Hypno Disc could split a machine in two. Chaos 2 could hurl machines out of the arena. But with Deitor, whether it won or lost, it would always guarantee fun, as it danced around the arena while its fur caught fire, its boggle eyes fell off, and its devilish smile peered through. Hardcore fans cherished Deitor's presence on the show, and many casual watchers did too. Deitor's legacy in the show's history was reinforced in Series 10, as it came back to the arena for the first time in nearly 15 years, a long amount of time away, but never forgotten in the minds of fans. Comedy may have been Deitor's main thing, but it was also a solid competitor. Deitor has the most combat wins of any non-semi-finalist robot, but it did pull off a top 4 finish in the first World Championship, as well as 2 Heat Finals, and a combat trophy in the Tag Team Terror in Extreme, where it put a pivotal performance against the Steel Avenger in the final to help out its floundering teammate, the largely favoured Pussycat. Deitor's most famous moment, however, came about in Series 5. Against Tornado in Round 2, Deitor showed off its good pushing power and durability as it wore down the seated machine and dramatically pitted it. Known as one of the biggest shocks in the show's history, this battle helped seal Deitor's position as a joke bot that was also capable of holding its own in the war zone. And no discussion of Deitor would be complete without a mention of the team's sportsmanship. Redmond, Gavin and Byrne were always lending a hand in the pits. Had Dr. Zulu not been on hand to fix Hypno Disc's flywheel in Series 4, the battle with Splinter may have gone very differently. And for that mixture of memorable blazes, an iconic design, and solid combat record, and even being Jonathan Pierce's favourite robot, Deitor brings the perfect mixture to seal a lofty 8th place finish.
Toreador and Bull, which is which? Tornado with a little bit of a push now, side on to Deitor. Dancing around the arena, close controls. Deitor takes the plunge. Goes for the pit release first. Down it goes, the pit. Deitor, did they sense that Tornado was on its last leg, as it were? What a shot this is! Deitor nearly went in, but Tornado crash out! The 12 seeds are gone! What a win for Deitor!
Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Tornado turned into a gentle summer's breeze. Deitor go through!
From the Midlands, Carbide.
Out of the reboot competitors, there's no denying that the most iconic was the champion of Series 9 and the runner-up of Series 8 and 10, Carbide. From the very beginning of the reboot, Carbide instantly became a recognisable icon to the show's newer audience and returning fans alike, being the reboot's very first heat winner, all the way to dramatically losing the title fight in the last main episode of the show. Causing unparalleled amounts of damage that no other Robot Wars competitor could inflict, Carbide stood ahead as the true modern-day Hypno Disc and edges out every reboot newcomer for being the marked threat all the way through. Its Series 9 campaign was of particular note, collecting more victories en route to the title than any other Robot Wars champion, with 10 extremely dominant victories where no robot could even put Carbide in mild danger of losing. It's no wonder then that the following series saw people bringing experimental entanglement devices and anti-Carbide weapons, and it still advanced all the way to the title fight once again. Carbide won over 20 bouts in its career, and all of its losses were hugely memorable statement wins for its opponents. Had Carbide's proposed toy deal gone ahead, we'd perhaps be looking at a top 5 entry, but in the end it is the larger value of the classic series that prevents the most successful modern Robot Wars competitor from climbing any higher up the list.
Eruption with the flipper, but look at the damage to the flipper now! Has that weaponry packed in chances they can come in. Eruption trying to flip and show everyone their own card under they are. Oh, everything's coming off Eruption now. Absolutely everything. Oh, what a battle it was. But Carbide worthy winners. Carbide champions. Carbide, the strongest of the strong. Brilliant stuff. Worthy winners.
Well done, mate. You've done it, man.
Please make some noise for our Robot Wars champions, Carbide.
There you go, Carbide. Congratulations. Fully deserved it.
From Sawtrey in Cambridgeshire and #1 seed, Tornado.
Almost every single other robot in the top 20 is iconic and indistinguishable from its weapon of choice. Weapons stuck with the machine's identity. Tornado, though, couldn't be more different. Tornado's identity was the design of its wheels and chassis, being an invertible red box, but with a gale force push behind it. In its dominant debut campaign, Tornado managed to take up the hotly tipped Gemini and Wheelie Big Cheese before falling to the champion Chaos 2. Tornado didn't take long to iron out any shortcomings either, as a 20 kg weight boost and its new additional drum weapon in Extreme helped it towards victories over multiple big names. Despite a few hiccups against King Bee Powerworks and Deitor, Tornado blew away All-Star after All-Star, including 2 victories each over Chaos 2 and Pussycat. It seemed that only Razor was able to calm the Tornado at this point, but Tornado moved on from defeat and continued to improve. By Series 6, Tornado had added an arsenal of interchangeable weapons to suit any occasion. A chunky spike to face Anarchy, its reliable drum for dealing damage, and its signature charity scoop, which it used to grind down many an all-star including Hypno Disc, Dominator 2, Firestorm and Terahertz. But ultimately, Tornado still needed its most emphatic answer yet in order to combat Razor, and that answer was like no other, the infamous Anti-Crusher frame. And in true Robot Wars style, we were given a series of controversial yet enticing fights between the two, with Tornado's Razor Kryptonite attached. Whenever the Anti-Crusher frame was involved, Tornado got the better of Razor, in circumstances that changed each time and in circumstances which nobody would ever have expected. By the end of it all, Tornado entered the final series of the show as the UK and European champion. Tornado valiantly attempted to defend its crown, holding off part of the new guard like Gravity, and ultimately being the only top 10 seed to reach the grand final episode. 2 defeats to Storm 2 in the grand final and the third world championship finally saw Tornado's era of dominance end, but all in all it was a fitting way for it to bow out. Having carried the standards of Rambots for many a year, Tornado was only ever bettered at the end of its lifespan by a robot which was an evolved version of itself. And for pushing the extremes of ideas with such a simple base design, Tornado rightfully finishes inside our top 6.
Brilliance from the Tornado team. Can Razor respond? Do you know, I think that little hook thing on the edge of the beak is to try and get at Tornado and lift up the framework, but Razor aren't going to get a chance, are they? Because Tornado slams and bangs! In comes Tornado again! Is this the end of an era? Is this the end of the Razor reign as champions of the UK? Razor trying to force its way back into the final. You heard the pit release button being activated. Finally, Razor has lifted Tornado. Can they take them to the arena sidewall and push them out? It must be their only hope this late on. Tornado's weight, a huge factor here. Oh, that they can't get them down the pit. Look at that, it's an anti-pit device as well. An APD, we have never seen one before. We've heard about them, we have never seen an APD until now. And there it is. It goes to the judges, what innovation and what drama.
We have a new UK champion!
Congratulations! It's really heavy.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It is.
Hey, show it to the crowd!
Don't drop it!
From Gwent and reigning champion, Panic Attack.
Opening up our top 5 is the Series 2 champion and the finest machine in Wales, Panic Attack. Panic Attack and its captain Kim Davies were adored by the show as one of the story's elders, debuting in Series 2 and being one of the few to appear in 6 of the 7 original series. In a time when Razor didn't work and Chaos couldn't self-right, Panic Attack entered as an underdog, unnoticed by many as it tried to raise money for charity with every victory, and yet it took the UK crown by overcoming 3 of the 6 seed robots in the series, most notably with its shock pitting of Cassius in the final. Future versions of Panic Attack evolved into developing some of the robot's more famous trademarks: the bright yellow paint, the side skirt, and the black lifting forks that could hook even the smallest of holes of an enemy robot. Most Panic Attack victories saw these forks paired with Kim Davies' famed driving skills, and very few robots escaped their date with the Pit of Oblivion when that combination was working. Even though so many robots fell to this lift and pit maneuver, Kim Davies never became overconfident and was famously modest. He often had little expectations of further progress, preferred to pick a fight with Shunt, and he wasn't afraid to admit his mistakes, like Series 6's Panic Attack Gold. Though Panic Attack was the only champion never to make a second grand final, it backed up its trophy with a record 4 semi-final appearances, and even in its final series, Panic Attack was considered a heavyweight robot not to be taken lightly.
Get up to 9 miles an hour, Cassius 25 miles an hour. The more powerful of the two, but Panic Attack underrated. Look at that! Oh, what an upset! Panic Attack the winners! That is a huge upset!
Our Robot Wars Grand Champions from the start. You've been thinking you're going to lose every round.
We've honestly thought we've been going out since every round that we've came in, and it's just been a dream.
The war is won. Congratulations.
Hold the award up, go on.
Yay!
From Langley Moor in County Durham and number 2 seed, Firestorm 5.
One of the show's most famous and consistent robots, Firestorm is the robot who ironically falls just short of our podium. Firestorm's achievements are immeasurable, but what must be mentioned first is its 5 out of 5 heat victories, a feat no other robot or team would ever achieve. Among these semi-finals were an unprecedented 3 bronze medal positions, falling short of the eventual champion on all 3 occasions. These campaigns were rarely without event, overcoming powerful foes like Fascis and Panic Attack in its debut series, courting controversy in Series 4's Heat Final, pulling off a determined comeback in Series 5's Losers Melee, and beating Chaos 2's record of out of the arena flips in Series 7. Firestorm was the only robot ever to throw a robot out of the arena with a front hinge flipper, and the physical ability to do so is even more of a testament to the driving and power of the machine. Speaking of power, we would be remiss not to also mention Firestorm's jaw-dropping flip on Mr. Psycho, a house robot thought to be so heavy that the achievement was impossible. Firestorm was literally everywhere in Robot Wars. It would take part in almost every tournament imaginable, fighting in World Championships, All-Stars tournaments, Sumo Bashos, Pinball, Tag Teams, Vengeance, you name it. It was one of the most reliable machines of the classic series, even in defeat coming out relatively unscathed and ready for the next bout, though not always doing so in victory. There are not many robots who could lose to Hypno Disc and then overcome Wheelie Big Cheese and Pussycat shortly afterwards. A further testament to Graham Bone, Alex Mordew and Hazel Heslop was that despite minimal outside change, Firestorm kept pace with innovation. Other robots were obsolete 2 years after their best performance, but Firestorm was able to dominate foes from Crasher Nasher to Mute. The best measure of this was its constant overcoming of rival Panic Attack, who no matter what the year always found themselves second best at the Flaming Wedge. Unless it was a House Robot Rebellion that was conducted in the middle of the first round of an All-Stars tournament. By the conclusion of Series 7, Firestorm had only achieved a single trophy in the Commonwealth Carnage Tournament of Extreme 2, but it had so much more than that under its belt. 33 combat victories, 7 out of the arena flips, and the scalps of no fewer than 10 All-Stars and near universal admiration from fans, who to this day believe it to be capable of overcoming Classic Series veterans like Razor and Storm 2, if the odds happen to be in its favour.
Panic Attack. Worthy, but beaten. Oh! Firestorm 4 underneath Mr. Psycho! Can they do it? Look at Mr. Psycho! That is a huge weight! Cease. Mr. Psycho saved by the cease! No! Timber! That's a first! Who on earth is going to haul Mr. Psycho up onto his feet? That'll take an arm.
Ipswich, seed number 1 and reigning champion, Chaos 2.
The first of the legendary Big Three of Robot Wars to appear on our list, Chaos 2 has a legitimate claim to being one of the most influential bots in the history of not only the show, but the sport itself. Chaos 2, built by George Francis, one of the best engineers and drivers of his time, took the pneumatic flipper pioneered by Cassius and perfected it. From the first flip on the hopelessly outmatched Crocodilotron, it was immediately clear that we were watching not only the beginning of a beautiful career, but of a new era. Chaos 2's run through Series 3 was nigh on flawless, one of the greatest the show ever saw, tearing through strong competitors like the Big Cheese and Mace, and in a Robot Wars first, throwing Firestorm right out of the arena, before finally toppling a helpless Hypno Disc and claiming the trophy. Chaos 2's sheer dominance was lost on no one, and the self-righter in vertical design became almost mandatory. Bot who lacked either was either very confident, a fool, or both. Chaos 2 entered into Series 4 the reigning champ, but its opponents were wiser to its tricks, were adopting more and more damaging weapons. They were ready, and it didn't matter. Blazing through its heat, Chaos 2 flipped Steg 2 back to the Stone Age, chased Tornado right out of the arena, took the sting out of Stinger, and declawed Pussycat to achieve a feat few have ever replicated, back-to-back championship wins. George Francis, short on money and time, was never able to give Chaos 2 the same updates its peers enjoyed in a post-weight increase world, and yet Chaos 2 was able to stay in the top tiers of Robot Wars long into its career, such was the genius of its design. Series 5 saw Chaos 2 fight not only its best battle, but one of the best battles in history against Wildfing, twice cheating death to win the judge's decision. Ultimately, Chaos 2 would lose its crown to Big Brother, one of the finest of the new breed of flippers, in a kind of passing of the torch. Chaos 2's final run at the throne in Series 6 came 3 years since its debut, an eternity in robot combat, and especially for a bot so scarcely changed. And yet, they partied like it was 1999, still chucking bots like Iron out almost effortlessly, before ultimately, ironically, suffering the same fate they doled out to so many bots at the hands of the new root king Danton Kia. The easiest way to measure the influence of Chaos 2 is just switch on any series of Robot Wars after their debut, or attend any live event, and keep a lookout for another bot flipping another bot in the air, across the arena, or out of it altogether. They're all fighting in the house that George built. Chaos 2's sheer dominance at such a formative time for the show helped ensure the flipper would become, and remain, the British weapon of choice, and secured it a permanent place in robot history.
They have to stop the motors in order to get the spinning disc rotating again. Very near the flame pit, but that I don't think will bother either of these two robots. They have plenty of armament. Oh! Flipped up and over. Chaos 2 has won the final. Flipping Hypno Disc. The fears have proven true for the Hypno Disc boys. Chaos 2 came in, got underneath the disc ironically, flipped up and over, and Chaos 2 are the worthy winners of Robot Wars, the champions. Crowned as Hypno Disc lies battered and beaten, the house robots close in. There's a kill a lot. George Francis will try and keep Chaos 2 away from Matilda and attacks Matilda now. You can see the chainsaws come off the back of Matilda. What an untidy and ghastly sight she makes. Shunt, try to get away from Chaos 2, and why not? The champions want to beat everyone. Taking on Shunt and flipping Shunt over. So 2 of the house robots done. Off comes Shunt's exhaust stack. Chaos 2 once more toying with the house robots and destroying them. This is great fun, but they will be back, of course, and revenge will be in their hearts for the champions in the next series. But George Francis and his team, magnificent champions.
Once again, Chaos 2, the new UK Robot Wars champions. Give it up!
From Banbury and seeded number 2, Hypno Disc.
Where do you begin talking about Hypno Disc? There is not a single Robot Wars fan who doesn't name Hypno Disc at the top of a list of the show's most destructive robots. Most pioneers saw success in taking opponents unprepared, and no one was prepared for Hypno Disc. Before Series 3, the word spinner was limited to circular saws or heavier weapons that rarely worked. Hypno Disc changed that with a violent audition that remains one of the most distinctive debuts to the robot combat scene. Even before its first heat final, Hypno Disc had the credibility of a robot with 2 years experience rather than 2 fights experience,
and by the end of the episode, no one was questioning that Hypno Disc was destined to finish either first or second. For a robot to make such an impression in its debut series was unheard of until the reboot. Hypno Disc's combat record reads like that of a famous military general. Genocidal victories over Robogeddon, Stealth, VMAX and Atomic. One-hit KOs on otherwise hardy all-stars in Firestorm and Dominator 2. Nail-biter bouts with determined foes like 101 and Wild Thing. 3 grand finals, an unblemished record of heat victories, and a most original entry award. It's little surprise that Hypno Disc's design became one of the most popular templates for success and an inspiration to many newcomers. But no discussion of Hypno Disc is complete without a special mention of its most famous battles, Splinter and Bigger Brother. Most robots went their whole lives without taking part in a battle even deemed great, and Hypno Disc has 2 of the very best on its resume. The whole show was building towards fights like these even taking place. A complete evisceration of an otherwise valiant machine, and a come-from-behind victory not often seen outside a Rocky Balboa movie. Though it was never able to muster a combat trophy, despite coming tantalisingly close on 3 occasions, it is widely considered one of the best robots never to win the UK Championship. Dave, Derek and Ken Rose changed the game that robots had to play in the show. Quite simply, they put the war in Robot Wars. Even to this day, robots are compared favourably or unfavourably to the original spin-to-win king, and roboteers spin up their bars, discs and flywheels to declare themselves worthy of inheriting the crown of the new Hypno Disc.
If they keep attacking on a frontal collision with that disc, they'll protect their more vulnerable sides, of course, Splinter. And maybe, who knows? Oh, no, they won't! There goes the scoop of the front. They didn't quite turn the right way, they turned right into the spinning disc. Things did not go according to plan. And the delight of Ken Rose speaks for itself. There's not much left of Splinter now. Oh dear! Off comes the side. This is painful to watch for the Splinter team. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's marvellous stuff. Look at Splinter. Is there anything left there that works at all? Let's still try and valiantly to cover the arena floor. I think that's it now. I don't think there's any controls left. The very innards, 4 on break, still trying to get, oh dear, we're seeing it again. Trying to get some sort of traction and mobility out of Splinter. Great, give it up, mate. Oh, off it comes again. One of the front arms is buckled and tattered and torn. In comes Dead Metal for a slice of what's nice and good for a house robot. The very innards and machinery of Splinter.
First from Bournemouth, Razor.
After a long journey, we have finally reached the pinnacle. The single most remembered, most iconic and most notable robot in the history of Robot Wars. That is Razor. In robot combat, it's very hard to beat a complete package, but Razor really was the best of the best in virtually every aspect. Design, engineering, innovation and combat skill, Razor had it all. Razor was the robot to live up to, the robot to emulate, the robot to surpass. And yet, unlike its fellow podium finishers, almost no machine could ever threaten the consistency, dominance and efficiency that this robot so often produced. Even way back in its infant years, where it infamously suffered from reliability issues, Razor still always showed its extremely high potential. For every breakdown against Inquisitor and Agrobot, you'd have a show of extreme power in its debut in the gauntlet against Shunt, or a scattering of dominant displays in the First World Championship, including against at the time UK champion Chaos 2. Razor still had to face moments of grief against rivals Pussycat afterwards, but the number of opponents that could bring Razor to heel could be counted on a single hand. By the time the weight increase came about, Razor was almost unbeatable. With its inch-perfect front wedge, Razor pushed through for the remainder of the Classic Series, dominating tournament after tournament, claiming the second World Championship title, the Series 5 crown, 2 All-Stars championships, and with 25 plus wins also achieved in this time. It also dealt out clean sweeps over all-stars like Firestorm, Chaos 2 and Team Scutterbots, who in 8 fights between them not once came close to giving Razor a scare. In this era, the only defeat Razor had officially suffered for the rest of the show was to Tornado in the Series 6 title fight, a battle well known for its unique circumstances. An all-star like Tornado having to add interchangeable equipment specifically to combat Razor's design showed just how hard it was for any machine to reach the lofty heights that Team Razor had set. Speaking of lofty heights, we also have to highlight Razor's iconic design, which earned it 3 Best Design awards. The gleaming steel and beautiful elegant wings, the rough jagged edges and the venomous claw weapon, Razor made plain silver steel into a work of beauty. Robots on this list will tend to either have a good combat record, a good design, or a little bit of both, but Razor takes that little bit of both, amps them up to 11, and marries it all together to complete the ultimate dream machine. A machine with elegance but a domineering elegance, a machine with an edge but a refined edge. Razor knew what it wanted to be from the start, and it became exactly that. It's exactly what the team dreamed of, and Razor itself was exactly what Robot Wars dreamed itself to be in the perfect form. Beauty and brains, Razor was the ultimate 10 out of 10, and our rightful number 1 in Robot Wars, the iconic robots.
For Bournemouth in Dorset, the number 1 seed, Razor.
To take on Shunt and pushing him back! Now that's enormous power! Oh, what a horrible torture this is. It's like watching some maniacal, horrible schoolboy pulling the legs off a spider. Against the inner wall of Matilda, pressurised and punctured by Razor!
The new UK champion, the All-Star champions, the undisputed champion of the